Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston Station, we are ready for the event.
So into that music that I get carried away and forget to put myself up there. Hello from the mountain. How are we all doing today? Let me just get my comments up. And I see we have a few on there already. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are Kipper girls and boys. We are talking about the Kipper system, one of my favorite reading systems in the entire world. I hope you are all ready to talk Kipper. I hope you all have a little bit of Kipper in your heart, or soon will do, because we're going to talk about what Kipper is. For those of you out there who really know nothing about Kipper cards are a German reading system, a system of fortune telling with a situational deck. So each of the cards in the Kipper deck shows a situation. They are a wonderful deck for being super practical with. They are a wonderful deck for knowing what's going to happen in the real world. And yes, you are good. You are here. And really nailing down what exactly will happen in the coming 12 months or whatever timescale that you set. So the Kipper deck dates back to the 19th century here, not far away from where I live. And I'm going to show you a few cards of the original 19th century deck. See, look how nice and foggy I go. Come on, focus. Good lady, gute Dame. See the backs of them. And like I said, there's lots of people in the Kipper cards, and then we have people in situations and really life, how life happens. This is our sad news card, lady waiting at the window to get sad news in. So yes, that's exactly what we are going to be looking at today. Shouldn't throw my deck on the floor, should I? One moment, please. And I will be answering any questions you have out there from the Kipper techniques, how we read Kipper best. But I would like to get your fingers working first. So I would like to see in the comments below, please comment, hands up if you are a Kipper reader. Let us know how long you've been reading Kipper. If you have been reading Kipper, if you are brand new to Kipper, let me know that too. Hello from Mexico City. Hello, Alexa. Hi, Gerda. Hi, the Butterfly Effect from Scotland. Very nice. I'm originally from Yorkshire, but I live in Munich now. Hi, Yasna. Hi, Lena. Hi, Gina. Hi, Rahita. Hi, Courtney. Hi, Maria. Hi, Yasmin. Hi, Rita. Hi, Margot. Divine Healing. Hello, Hermit. If I don't say your name, it's quite possible that you are watching on Facebook and that you aren't in with the StreamYard thing that I'm streaming from. So I just see Facebook user. If you want to list your name, then I know who you are. That's one of the most the most asked questions is, how does Kipper differ from Linneman? So if you are a completely alien to you what we are talking about here, feel free to put it in the comments below and I will explain there. Totally brand new to Kipper. Hi, Candice. Kipper differs a lot from Linneman. You will see a lot of modern readers reading Kipper in a Linneman fashion. And that's probably because there's not a lot of information out there on the Kipper deck. Kipper is a situational deck, which means it differs from Linneman in the style of reading. Hi, Joanne. The Linneman cards have emblems on there, and we embody the meaning. I did do a video the other day, a live, which is on my channel, about Linneman if you're wanting to read Linneman. But you embody the emblems on the cards in Linneman, and then you form a language, a narrative language of storytelling based on those emblems. Kipper is slightly different in that it joins situations together. So we're not just looking at a one emblem, a symbol of one thing. We're looking at a rounded situation that comes together. So a situation will be explained by a number of situations around. You know what real life's like. You know what your day could be like. Think about your day, for example, when you have my day today. I've come to, what time are we now? I've come to 5 o'clock at night, and I honestly cannot tell you where my time has gone. I've gone from one thing to the next and just continuously done things. And that's what the situational cards really depict. They depict our stringing of situations together, a bit like the butterfly effect. If you think of one thing happening, then something morphs off from it. Kipper cards will show that really well. And it's, like I say, it's the style of reading them that differs. The end message will probably be the same if you've asked the same question of different systems. But the way in delivering that message changes whether you see a situation in front of you or whether you are reading an emblem into a narrative fashion. If you aren't seeing our comments, that means you are probably on Facebook, either on my newsfeed or on the page, and that's the only reason. I get all the comments from YouTube, Facebook, and Facebook groups, so it depends where you're watching from, which comments you will see. So that's how, hi Mike, that's how Linneman and Kipper differ. Like I say, if you are a reader, you can use any system to get the answer that you want. So it is a case of, if you read tarot, you can still get the same practical answer, what's going to happen next week, as if you read the Linneman. It's just the way in which you read it and the way in which the message is delivered that differs. The answer should technically be the same. You've been reading, hi, and oh, Stacy, I recognize the name on YouTube. You're a newbie Kipper reading. It is an amazing system to get into. Hi, Praneeth, I am great, thank you. It's an easy system to get into because it doesn't really require so much thought process. The Kipper deck is so, it just shows you a straight situation that you then explain, like you're explaining it to a friend who sat next to you on the bus, maybe. So it delivers the message very much in a conversational and sometimes gossipy way, depending on what the question is. So to our Kipper readers out there, Gerda, I see you. I see you writing test. Hello from Italy. Thank you. Kipper readers out there, how would you explain, or how would you, if somebody came to you and said, what do you like about Kipper? Put it in the comments below what it is that you as a reader actually like about Kipper. I personally like the obviousness as soon as it's in front of you. To me, the Kipper, out of the 36 card decks, the Gypsy is pretty obvious too, the Gypsy card deck, but the Kipper deck to me says what it is on the tin. So very much says what the message is. Practicality and directional movement. Hi, Garth. It's lovely to see you. Thank you for joining me. I like the practicality. I also like the directional movement because it adds a 3D or extra information onto your read. You like the directness. Yes, it is super direct. So we do have a super direct message coming through. Rita, you're a beginner reader. That's great. We all start in the same place. You have the Mystique deck twice over, once in French, one in English. Very good. Nancy, hi Nancy. Kipper is a situational deck and more direct to me than Linneman. Lots of clarifying directional movement cards. That's very true for a beginner reader too. If you are a beginner reader, the directional cues can work as clarifiers for you. So like in Linneman, we don't lay clarifiers. The Kipper stop system allows you to do that. So when you may be confused about what that ending is, for example, with fatality, the additional information you can get actually can make your life easier when you're beginning. It can be an easier visual cue for you. Hi, Yannicka. Yeah, so the Kipper deck, like I say, is a very, I think, simple deck. Write in the comments if you don't believe me, or if you don't agree with me. I think it's a very simple, a very honest message is probably the best way of putting it. So for our Kipper readers, one second. For Linneman is no official rule on how to use them. It's just an old game that didn't sell. Actually, that's technically not true. The Roman, the Game of Hope, obviously does have information on the Wahrsagen, the fortune telling, actually in the game instructions. And then when we move on to the Philippe Lunneman instructions, it was only 50 years later, it was morphed on from there. And there are a lot of readers from the Game of Hope, or the generations from the Game of Hope, then morph down the generations. So there's still information out there on how to read the Game of Hope as a fortune telling deck. Hi, Whispers Healing. Hi, Margot. I love that in a box spread, the whole story just jumps out loud and clear. It absolutely does in the Kipper card. It doesn't leave a lot unsaid, I think. And I think it really works for us with these situations, just to say it like it is. I get step by step more acquainted with Kipper. Game of Hope helped a lot. Good. That's good. So to all our Kipper readers out there, what would you say is the most challenging thing about a Kipper read for you? Where do you think you are on your Kipper journey? We've had a lot saying there, beginners, but when you are laying, what would you say are, if there is anything, Garth, the people? I totally get that. Totally get that. The Kipper deck actually puts a lot of readers off because of the people in there, the lots of people in there. And they have obviously a core meaning, and they have then a meaning of a person. So it could be an ant, but it could also be somebody who is bringing joy into your life. And how do you decide between the two, whether it is a joyful situation or whether it is somebody in your family that's coming to visit? And the way I've always dealt with Kipper cards and people is to ask myself the likelihood of things. For example, now in COVID times, you probably see a lot less people, so there'll be probably a lot more essences in your read. But on a situational basis, I prefer to use the people always as people. I rarely read an essence for a people card because on the whole, it generally is a person in somebody's life. The interesting thing I get with the good gent is that he comes up almost daily in my reads. And the reason that is because of the job I do. And it isn't somebody over me, it's more what I am doing, the action of what I am doing. Hi, Christina, I can see you. So the action of what I'm doing, the teaching side of life, the supporting, which is my whole day is taken up with either supporting people, mentoring, or teaching. So the good gent comes into my reads in that respect. Yes, we can all read you, Christine. So yes, people are probably the thing I see people struggle with most regarding the Kipper deck. And whether they are hi Christina, lovely to see you. So whether they are a person or they aren't, and honestly, it's often a lot of time. I know this sounds weird in a fortune telling area, but it's obviously a lot of time. It is often common sense. That's a nice name. I won't say that one. You're not very nice, are you? Let's block that user. There we go. Hi, Elise. So let's get back into you and your Kipper reads. Hi, Peter. Hi, Saraya. I hope I said that right. Hi, Cassie. So apart from people, do we have any other issues with the Kipper deck? Is there anything that we just don't gel with, or a particular card that we struggle with? I'm actually teaching a course on modern Kipper soon. And the reason I did that was because I see a lot of people finding the directional qualities of the Kipper deck to be a struggle. So another way into the Kipper deck is actually reading in a modern fashion and without the directionality to the extent that the older generations use. My problem with Kipper is that I tend to overthink what is staring me in the face. I honestly think a lot of people feel that way too, Margot, that sometimes it's really, God, they're all on today. I'll delete this. Have to deblock another user. Usually don't have that issue. Sorry, everybody. We're full of it today, aren't we? There's lots of gremlins and trolls around at the moment. Absolutely, Garth. It would lose something without the directions. Absolutely. But it's maybe I'm not worried, Nancy. It's maybe a more relaxed way in for some people. Oh my goodness, we must be on like major troll central today. Yeah, so will it lose something if you don't read it directionally? I honestly believe, and the reason I'm teaching it is as long as you don't suddenly start reading it in a lineman fashion, then you aren't going to lose the Kipper core system, because the people will still retain their directionality. It's the other cards that are added. Hi, Birgit. Is it easy to learn than Linneman? I honestly think people gel with Kipper a lot quicker than they do with Linneman, especially if they come from a tarot background. So the Kipper is actually almost like a stepping stone then into a Linneman type read if you come from a tarot background. So I think there's no similarities with Kipper and tarot. But don't cry, Yasmin. Don't be in a cryy mood. Where was I? Maybe set a moderator. Yeah, I'm on the Streamlab thing. I usually don't have it. I don't know where they're coming from today. Coming out of the corners, these nasty peeps. Yes, so I think that although there are no similarities between Kipper, or very little similarities between Kipper and tarot, I do think that it is a nice step then from tarot. Is Kipper easy to learn compared to Linneman? Like I just said, I honestly think that people take to it quicker, and the gypsy cards even quicker still. So I would say that the gypsy cards probably are the easiest deck to learn, followed by Kipper and then Linneman. Nobody's sad. We're not allowed to be sad in here. So questions to our Kipper readers. So people that have been, do I have a course workbook? I have a book, and I also have courses on the Kipper cards. It's like learning a language's grammar with a small vocabulary. It's very true. So you start small and then you build on that, where once the comfortability is there. So our current Kipper readers, if you saw a Kipper read that was read in a Linneman fashion, how would you recognize it? Would you recognize it? Can you see a difference? I'd love to hear. Thank you, Birgit. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on that, or even how you would explain the differences between Linneman and Kipper. I do actually have videos on my YouTube channel about them both, and Kipper and Gypsy. And I also have a lot of courses on them. I'm actually thinking about doing a Kipper weekend like I'm doing the Linneman weekend. So a weekend full of Kipper cards. Yes, when they start mirroring the night in. You see, this is what people don't sometimes when they come into Lunneman from another system and they get all the books that are out there, they sometimes have lost or have never learned the storytelling aspect of Linneman 2. So I think I agree with you, Garth. As soon as the cartomantic techniques come into Kipper, you notice immediately that the reading is not off, but it doesn't hit the nail on the head like the Kipper style read. And elbow cup. And I would also say the same with Linneman. So if you see Linneman being read in the Game of Hope fashion or in the early near far fashion, etc., it's very different than when people add on then a cartomantic technique or playing cards cartomancy on top. It doesn't really flow in the same fluid reading that a storytelling narrative does. Where do I start? So Nancy says she would recognize, because also read Linneman and love that too, but mostly the meanings of the cards and seeing how combos are formed. Let's have a look. Sorry, I'm going back through the Linneman is symbols and Kipper directionals. Of course, there is a big difference. Yay, Kipper weekend. The cause and effect cards, absolutely. The cause and effect cards. And I'm actually surprised with how many readers actually struggle with the cause and effect cards, because I find them super easy to add more to your reading. So because you've got the reason that something's happening and what is happening because of it. So I've always found the cause and effect cards to be super highlighting on that. I mean, how much more easy can you get with seeing the information there in front of you? It's like saying who's going to die or what's going to end. Well, it actually shows you there. And we have another troll. Off you go. I very much appreciate the cause and effect cards too, Nancy. The theft card is killing you, Yasna. Then don't think of it as a directional. If you are struggling with any of the direction cards in Kipper, stay away from it. Just leave that card for now in a situation and wait till you are ready to actually see more than that. If you're on Facebook, you won't be seeing the comments from the trolls. You're missing out. You're missing out on the trolls. I'm just deleting them as they come. They're not even worth talking about. So Kipper is step by step and Linneman is more action. Yep. Sorry, I'm just reading through. So I find the grammar of Kipper to be more clear cut than that of Linneman. That can also be true because the grammar of Kipper, actually, the grammar of Linneman is also the same. Linneman is technically a narrative storytelling deck. So anything you see where somebody's saying that you have to do combinations, that's actually playing cards cartomancy. That's something that's been added to Linneman later. So that's something that's added along the way by readers who originally read playing card cartomancy. So the Linneman is actually a very fluid narrative deck as well. It's just been bombarded with cartomantic techniques. Thank goodness it hasn't happened to Kipper so much. They've just taken the directionality away. Fatality is a bit too complex with other directional cards. Like I said before, if any card feels too much for you, then remove the directionality from it until you are ready to add that dimension in. Use fatality as an ending, full stop. It is dying. It is something literally getting to the end of its days. And that core doesn't change. So you can be sure that when fatality comes up, it is an ending. And you can be sure that something is dying with the fatality card. So if you aren't ready to add that extra dimension of the directional cues, then just lay off until you've embodied the full meanings of your cards and the full directional aspects. We we aren't running Kipper endorsement at the minute in the World Divination Association. So we've just put a pause on the endorsements just for now. About the Meridian 90, these techniques are talked about a lot in books I've read. I think I explained it too as well, Tarot, Your Truth, that they are playing card cartomancy techniques that have been then applied to other decks. Now, that's absolutely fine, but it doesn't help you learning the system in the first place. You can add those after if you really wanted to. But if you read the Kipper and the Lunneman in a fluid narrative storytelling fashion, as designed in the original instructions, etc., then you don't actually need that on top. It's superfluous because you've already answered the question before that would even come into play. Lunneman confuses me with every card having so much different. Sylvia, please watch my Lunneman live from last week. Each card has one simple meaning. It doesn't have a trillion keywords. You do not have to learn them. That's Lunneman I'm speaking of. So if you watch my live, you will understand that you do not need to learn thousands of keywords for one card. It actually hinders you in giving a clear message. Okay, so yes, basics is that Kipper is a situational deck that runs fluidly from one card to the next, and we can read narrative, nice narrative fashions. One of the best, if you leave the GT to the side, one of the best spreads in a Kipper spread is the progressive Siebenweg, which is the path of 7. And that's where you start with your starting point where you are now, and you read progressively to your end goal where you want to be and how to get there. It reads narratively to the way to get to where you want to go. Can also be used in Lunneman as well, and it's a great tool, a great spread for reading the narrative qualities of the Lunneman deck too. I love to mix my Kipper and Lunneman. I absolutely do it all the time. And with Gypsy, I have like stacks of cards in one deck. It's absolutely fantastic to honor each system, and it adds an extra reading layer onto it as well. So I would have a question for our Kipper readers and whether there are any themes you struggle with, because in Linneman, themes come up a lot as an issue, a stumbling block to actually getting somewhere. The best deck I would start with for a beginner Kipper deck would be the, as I've got them here, I can actually show you. This is the 1920s. If you're new and you don't know, I'll tell you quickly. The first Kipper deck came out and was facing one way. I'll show you quickly. Just finding the cards. It's going. Can you see me? I'm sorry, everybody. I disappeared. We had an internet short. I'm back on. I'll smile at you lovely until I see any comments. Hello, everybody. I'm so sorry our internet went out. I have no idea what's going on. We never have that, honestly. Okay, so I have no idea where I was at the time, everybody. I am super sorry for disappearing. I'm going to look through the comments to try and figure out where we were at the time. If anybody knows, you can comment. Oh, you're right. They're in front of me, Garth. Thank you so much. Maybe I disappeared because I couldn't find MC2 in my deck. I honestly don't know what I'm doing. So there she is, the lady of the hour. The early Kipper deck, MC1. And then a little bit later, he switched. MC2. And a little bit later, she switched. So you wanted to know what the best Kipper deck for starting is. And I would always choose, I'm that kind of person though, so I would always choose the most original deck that's available, the simplest deck that's available. And that's the original, it's still available, the 1920s version, we call it. So it is technically the later version of the deck, but it's still available. See them both. Oh my goodness, I need admin help. There we go. And obviously there's my deck, which is the same as the first deck. So 1890s type deck. If I can find MC1 and 2 for you. Here we go. My deck. But then there are also so many decks out there that run between the 1890s and the 1920s version, and also some in-betweeny mixers, which is also great. You just look at the deck you have for either its directionality or the movement, etc. So it really, honestly, choose a deck that you like to work with. But if you really want to start somewhere simple, you can't get more simple than the 1920s deck. That's the Thief card. Looking through comments again. Yes, that one is backwards because it's the original. It's the first ever version of the Kipper cards. Will you ever get the sister? I'm sure you will, Melanie. Thank you, hubby, All-Star Space, for getting me back on. I won't be doing a conference, not like for anybody out there that doesn't know, I am founder of the World Divination Association, and we ran a World International Conference in May time, end of May, and we ran a Lenormand Summit, which was it turned out to be a week, but 48 hours of international Lenormand speakers just going round the hour, every hour, speaking about the Lenormand GT or techniques that have helped them in professional readers in their way forward. And I have also coming up a Lenormand workshop weekend, which takes people to where they're really struggling and morphs that then into a professional reading career. So from uncertain to being really behind your reads. And that's what I'm thinking of doing with Kipper too. So start finding out where those Kipper kinks are, and then filling you with so much Kipper knowledge and confidence that you can stand behind your reads and know that they're isn't anything going wrong anywhere. So that's what I'm thinking of doing, running a weekend of workshops. But I do obviously have a lot of courses out there on Kipper too, on the World Divination Association. You use the Chiro Marchetti Lineman and Kipper cards. The Chiro Marchetti Fin de Siècle Kipper card deck is a beautiful deck. It's absolutely wonderful for readers. Do I keep disappearing? It must be a sign that you have all had enough of me today. And that I should take a break and go have some dinner. Is that what we're saying? I would like to ask before I go for you Kipper readers one thing, and that would be, do you feel or think the Kipper card deck has any limitations, and maybe areas in which you think the Kipper card deck doesn't perform as you would like it to? I'd love to hear in the comments if you actually have thoughts on that. Thank you, everybody. I'm glad I'm not cutting out for everybody. So let me know, what do you think? Is there a limitation? The reason I asked that question is because there's a certain area in which people have told me that they think that the Kipper deck is limited. So I would love, there you go, Garth. That's exactly the area in which people are telling me that they struggle, and that's in the spiritual arena. Because obviously the Kipper cards are a super practical deck. They are a situation, like I say, the show situations. They have a bit of a bad rep, I think, when it comes to spirituality and the questions of a spiritual nature. And there is a reason for that. The Kipper cards were born at a time where you had to hide your spirituality. They were born at a time when it wasn't accepted to be a fortune teller. They were born in a very hidden time where you had to pretend that you were playing a game rather than relaying a reading. And that applied to playing cards, Lineman, and everything at that time. And the Kipper cards really were born for that. They were born to give a hidden spiritual message. They were born to be that fortune telling deck that you weren't open about. Because at the time in Germany, board games were often card games. So they still are today, which is quite interesting to me, that cards are often the base for a board game. So you could lay out your Kipper cards in a tableau style, whether small or large tableau, and get away with a sneaky reading when it looked like, or you could pretend that you were playing with dice. And I think that's why they get a particularly bad rep in that area, because they are designed to hide that. They are designed not to show any religious symbols. They are designed not to show anything of a French nature, because at the time there was it just came out of the French-German wars, Prussian-German, sorry, wars. And so they were born at a time where you needed to hide that in your decks. And when you are reading on a spiritual nature with the Kipper cards, you have to apply the whole spiritual theme to them. So it doesn't suffice to say the people are spirit, but then the other cards are practical. You have to look at them in a different way. For example, a gift coming down. If you have if you lay a spiritual read and you have your MC character with a gift above and then great fortune above that, you can see channeling, you can see mediumship. If you have court official in front and then another card, you can see the giving of either negative energies, or if you have convene there, then the giving of, the passing, the transmission of positive energies. So it doesn't suffice to keep convene at its very practical core of people getting together. It could be a seance, for example, but it does, they need a twitch on each card. So each card needs to embody that spirituality. So we can't have a very, it's almost like it's a wink to it. The convene card is a wink to people getting together. Now, what does that mean on a spiritual level? You have to apply that back to the spirituality. So yes, they do have a very bad rep for spiritual type reads, and people often say they are akin to a psychological tool because they're extremely good at that. But you have to treat it in the same way. So if you're going to do a psychological read, you also want to be able to apply that same psyche in a spiritual manner. So yes, absolutely, Garth. I'm glad you said that. The spiritual side of it, people do get very itchy and say, well, you're better using your tarot cards for that. And obviously tarot are a great spiritual tool, but the Kipper are too, as long as you nod to them and realize that they were made to hide that. And that's why when you use mixed systems and you use the Kipper cards in with Linneman or in with Gypsy cards, the Kipper cards are a great underlying situation because they're always hiding something. So they are great to show the underbelly of a situation, whereas Linneman is great to tell you the narrative of what's going to happen. And then you have the Kipper underbelly of, yeah, but while that's happening, this is happening too. Things that we don't often see on first glance. So the 5 minutes, okay, so the Kipper system, it does have a super practical side to it, but I think sometimes it also should be highlighted as a way into spirituality, because it can teach you what's, especially with the progressive read of the Zibanovic, it can show you what you need to do on your spiritual path to get to the enlightenment or get to the mediumship or get to whatever stage of spiritual growth that you want to get to. And then it will also tell you if you're going shopping next week, or if you will be meeting Fred at the meat counter, for example. Does anyone read the cards upside down? No, absolutely not. Also not in Linneman. They're not designed, well, in the original. I guess people modern day will read as they wish. I like the thought of putting a spiritual head on and reading them with that in mind. I honestly think every reader should read every kind of theme just to grow themselves as a reader, because the day that client walks through your door and said, I have a super spiritual question for you, and you feel that you can't dive into your favorite deck, no matter what system it is, if you feel that your deck has limitations in any way, I think that's a shame, because they each bring something to the table. So the day a client walks through the door and I can't read with one deck what they're going to ask me, I think we should prepare for every kind of client that could walk in. Okay, so I'm going to disappear. If you don't have any questions, please ask now if you do. Otherwise, I am going to pop off. I obviously have on the World Divination Association website all my courses on Kipper, with the new one, Modern, coming up, which is a different way of looking at the Kipper cards, the more modern way of looking at the Kipper cards. And then you can revisit the traditional way afterwards. And obviously the Lunneman weekend is coming up, and if there's enough people poking me for a Kipper workshop weekend, then you might be in luck, but we will see. I am not 100% sold yet. Have a lovely rest of day. And if you are not in the World Kipper Association group on Facebook, please join there. We all jump in on, there's so many endorsed readers, great readers in there, helping you on your Kipper journey. Thank you. Yeah, I'd love a Kipper weekend too. One second. Did I see the Xbox unboxing? I haven't seen an unboxing of it yet, but I have seen the live event, obviously. Thank you, everybody. I am going to sign out now. You have a wonderful day. The course for the Lunneman weekend, somebody just asked, is on the World Divination Association website. So if you Google us and click on courses, you will find them. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a wonderful day.